Good evening, and welcome to this exciting world premiere of our audio drama, Hitchcock, an audio serial, which has been written by the award-winning playwright Joe Landry. This project has been produced by the University of Detroit Mercy's Department of Performing Arts and the Detroit Mercy Theater Company. My name is Andrew Papa, and I'm the director of this project. What we'd like to do this evening as we prepare to launch this series is to present to you, our gracious audience, a little bit of a behind the scenes, a sneak peek, if you will, of just what it took to create this audio drama, particularly in this new normal that we're getting so used to. Over the course of the past year, the Department of Performing Arts at the University of Detroit Mercy has been tirelessly working to create unique opportunities much like this, not only so that we in the department can engage in creative activities and scholarly endeavors, but more importantly, so that we can do so at the crossroads of teaching and training our students in the skills that they will need to build their creative futures. Now, the audio drama as a medium has actually been around for quite a long time. In fact, it even harkens back to the golden age of radio before television. And recently, there's been an explosion in podcasting, particularly over the last 5 to 10 years, and really a heightened focus on serialized audio dramas, much like this one. And we thought, what better time for our students to engage and create in this revitalized medium? So with that, we would like to present to you the making of Hitchcock, an audio serial. We'll have little featurettes. I'll have an interview with the playwright. You'll get to see some of our students at work and hear from them. You'll also get to hear from some of the other members of our production team and a couple of other little nuggets along the way. I hope you enjoy. Take a look. Joe Landry, thank you so much for joining us today for a little bit of an interview about this project that you and I have been working on, but you are solely responsible for writing. One of the things I wanted to ask you about that I think our audience might be kind of curious about is, can you talk a little bit, sort of in the very early stages of this development, can you talk a little bit about what it was, or what it is rather, that resonates with you about the work of Alfred Hitchcock? Hitchcock's work is so prevalent in this piece, and I'm sort of curious, I was hoping you could elaborate on what it was about his work that resonated with you as you developed this project.
Sure thing. Well, first of all, thank you. Thanks so much. And it's a pleasure to speak with you and to be part of this project. This has been an amazing experience, and I'm just so grateful for it. But as far as Hitchcock, I was raised on the classics, raised on classic movies all the way back from silent films on. And Hitchcock's career, interestingly, started with the silent films and went all the way through the 70s. And what I love about the body of work of Hitchcock is that it's so diverse. It's not really, pigeonholed into one type of film, or the way that certain other directors kind of get known for a certain genre or style. I mean, he has style and he has genre, but I think I'd say that the diversity and the different types of stories he told, and the cinematic style that he brought to everything, and the suspense, obviously, known as the master of suspense, and his handling of suspense within the genre, I just find very intriguing. And it seems like with a Hitchcock film, I kind of always lean forward. I just sort of want to get closer and absorb it more. I think that might be one of the main things that makes me very interested in Hitchcock. And I know we originally started talking about another play that I have, a play called Vintage Hitchcock, and that's what our conversation started back last summer, maybe, or it's been a while ago now. Yeah,
It's been a while. Yeah, it's been almost a year.
Yeah. So it started with talking about that piece, which is 3 Hitchcock films, and then that sort of evolved into this. But so I already had a familiarity with Hitchcock and with his body of work and with adapting it for the stage. But this really is not an adaptation. This, I would say, is an original work, but it pays homage to his films and also to fans of his films, like I think you and I are, and a number of people.
Much like the 2 characters in it, who are really Hitchcock fans, and it's part of this immersive game experience that they sort of get
looped into and then sort of begins to take a spin that neither of the our lead characters expects, right?
Mm, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I'm curious if you could elaborate on this. So, some people who might know your name might recognize your name. We've certainly produced your works in the past, and as you said, one of the things that you have really specialized in has been in radio plays, and especially, not exclusively, but especially radio plays that are adaptations of things like classic films, such as It's a Wonderful Life, your War of the Worlds, the Panic broadcast, which very much was like a almost like historical, retelling of the original, but then looking at the historical repercussions of it. I'm wondering if you can elaborate a little bit on the difference between how you, in terms of your writing process, what it's like to write a radio play, which is meant to be done in front of a live audience, versus an audio drama, which is meant to be sort of listened to separately. There's more editing and things like that involved. Can you talk a little bit about the writing process for each of those mediums and what you sort of learned in this process?
Sure thing. Well, as far as the adaptations go, I feel like, once again, going back to being raised on classic film, that was kind of my vocabulary, and those were my classics. And so I looked at those as, how could you do something like this on stage? Um, and even though there have always been examples of taking a film, putting it on stage, I feel like that's definitely become more of a trend lately. And but back when It's a Wonderful Life was the first piece that I adapted for the stage, and that was really just a friend of mine asking, like, oh, could you, is there a way that we could do It's a Wonderful Life on stage? So I did some research on that, and then ended up writing a version, and then there was a second adaptation, which became the radio version, and the A Live Radio Play brand was kind of born then. So the radio plays, or the live radio plays that are sort of within that catalog, are kind of hybrids. I mean, they're all hybrids to some extent, as this project is in different ways. But the live radio play brand is really just the idea of taking a story, in most cases based on either a film, or with War of the Worlds, that's a little bit different, um, but doing them on stage, under the conceit that the audience is there watching a recreation of a radio broadcast. Um, and what was cool is that whole experience has sort of been has led up to this experience, which has been writing something exclusively audio, something that doesn't rely on the layer of you're sitting in a theater watching actors on stage, recreating a radio play in some way, but that it's more as a podcast, or different types of audio only material. It was a way to really look at how do you tell a story using those tools, and not using the visual at all, which has been it's been a really cool experience. I mean, I'm still learning. I mean, I've been sitting in on well, sitting in on rehearsals, being like, oh, could we like change this? Because when you hear things, when you don't have any visual cues to pick up, it's really like you're experiencing it as if you're not seeing it at all.
Yeah.
So you
And
listen differently.
and that was actually the last thing I was going to sort of ask you about your experience, which is you've been part of the rehearsal processes for other plays that you've written, radio plays and other plays that you've written. Can you talk a little bit about your experience in being such an integral part of the rehearsal and recording process of something that is something like an audio drama, which you've said is right? It's a very unique medium. It's audio only. Can you talk a little bit about doing that, especially in this new normal that we're kind of experiencing with being so virtual and audio based?
Yeah, I mean, this is the first time that I mean, I have worked on other pieces during the pandemic, but this is the first time that I've worked on a new piece that's also an audio piece. And the rehearsal process has been, um, in a way, it's been I almost want to say the most liberating, or the most like organized on my when I'm in a rehearsal on my computer screen. I'll have the copy of the script. I'll have a copy of notes. I'll have the video feed, which I'll usually have turned off because I want to just listen to it, and you know not see anything that I'm not hearing. So it's been great to be able to listen and to be able to adjust as it goes along, because there are things that, and the way that the script, if I don't know if people watching this will have a chance to look at a page from the script just to see what the format is and that sort of thing, you're welcome to share that if you'd like. But it was written almost more. So the structure of it itself was almost a little bit of a hybrid, where it almost looks like a screenplay, where it's saying, exterior of this location, what time of day. Just so it's clear as rehearsing it, because it's this is like a film more than the stage plays, where it's so all over the place. I mean, there are tons of scenes, tons of locations. But through that, it also has where there's sound effects, where there's music, where there's business, which that I'm sure we can talk more about that if you like. But where there are things that as I was writing it, I was hearing, okay, we're in this location, we're in a movie theater lobby, which is one of the first scenes, and it's like, what do you hear during that? And
Right,
almost
right.
engaging the other senses, like, what do you smell? What are all the things that would be around you if you're there?
Yeah. And how do you create that oral landscape that I know we
Yes.
talked about in the
Yeah.
development of the script? Good.
Yeah.
Good.
So,
Well, Joe, you and I could talk forever about not just this project, but just about anything. But for the sake of time, I just want to say thank you so much. Thank you so much for your work and your contributions on this project. And I'm sure I can speak for our audiences when I say that I'm really looking forward to hearing this full series when it's all officially out there.
my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Take care.
Great. Take care.
Bye.
Hi, I'm Elise Paneman. I'm a junior theater major at the University of Detroit Mercy, and I'm from Clinton Township.
Hi, I'm Adam Elzane. I'm a first year majoring in theater, and I'm from Dearborn Heights, Michigan.
I play the character of Alma. She is a young woman who works at a video store and gets roped into a, we'll say, adventure from her friend over here. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I play her friend Grant, a freelancer, more carefree than her, and he sets up this immersive, fun experience for them based on the movies of Alfred Hitchcock to try to reconnect with her in a way after a long time of, not talking.
It's been very interesting trying to get the rehearsals done during this pandemic. Not being in the same room with people has been quite different, but we've had to learn to adapt.
I found it very difficult to adapt from the usual acting on stage and using my body and stuff and connecting through the cast in real life. Instead, we did it through a screen.
Right.
But honestly, throughout when we started recording, I finally felt that same energy I felt while acting on stage with everyone else. Mm-hmm. So I found it very interesting how those contrast in a way.
I think the biggest learning process through all of this was that even though we cannot be in the same room and on stage, you just kind of, it taught me to kind of look more in on myself, on my own character. I don't know what that was like for you, but a lot of times I'm very focused on what other people are doing on stage. This really gave me an opportunity to focus more on my own character.
The hardest thing for me, I think, was trying to convey emotion and feeling, not through my body, my actions, my facial expressions, but just through my voice. Doing different pitches, different tones to convey different emotions and get the message across to the audience was very different from anything I've ever done. Mm-hmm. But honestly, this experience is something I really keep in mind when moving on and performing, especially through all this pandemic stuff, and adapt and move forward as we change as time comes,
Right. Exactly. Well, I hope you enjoy the show. See ya.
All right.
My name is Mary Liz Valisano, and I'm the costume designer for the Detroit Mercy Theater Company. My goal while working on Hitchcock was to find a creative way for me as a costume designer to engage with this project, collaborate with the production team, and create visual work to support the storytelling. The way that I was able to do this was by illustrating specific scenes from each episode of Hitchcocked in a way that would still communicate information about the characters' personalities, their relationships, and offer the audience imagery to supplement their listening experience. The first part of my process was to start sketching out a layout for each moment that I was illustrating. After I did my first sketch, I would collaborate with the students on refining a pose or a posture for each of the characters. Students would take photos and send them to me with a few different options for poses for their characters. Working digitally, I was then able to sketch on top of their photos so that I could incorporate their postures and their physicality into the final product. This collaboration between me and the students on their poses helped me to feel a little more integrated into the production process, allowed the students to explore the physicality of their characters, and I also think that it helped give the final illustrations just a little bit more life. This project was definitely a challenge for me, especially as I was incorporating a lot more backgrounds and environments into my illustrations compared to a traditional costume rendering, but I also found it to be very rewarding and very fun to work on a completely different kind of project than what I'm used to.
Hi, my name is Kaylin Johnson. I am a junior here at the University of Detroit Mercy, studying theater with a minor in multimedia journalism. This process of doing the audio drama has been very fun and enlightening. I actually aspire to someday become a voiceover artist, and one of my favorite roles is the Officer Hubbard. My first interpretation of Officer Hubbard was a strict New York accent, and so I kind of talked like this, a little bit like that, and it was very thick. But Andrew gave me the idea to look up AOC, and so I looked up the interview of her explaining her accent when people accused her of faking the accent. So that was my inspiration for that. The skills that I learned during the process of the audio drama, I will definitely incorporate that in my career in hopes of becoming a voiceover artist someday. And I just want to thank you guys so much and enjoy the show.
Hello, my name is Preston Cornelius. I'm from Armada, Michigan, and I'm a senior at University of Detroit Mercy. Ever since I was a kid, I was always curious about how did they get all these voices in the cartoons? And I just remembered Mel Blanc from the Looney Tunes. He does all the voices, and that blew my mind because each voice sounds so different. Or eventually I started to recognize different actors doing voices like the guy that voices Fry in Futurama. He also voiced Shaggy once upon a time on a VHS tape I had when I was a kid. And I started recognizing similarities in all these different voices, like, oh, this guy kind of sounds like that. The guy that's voicing Scooby kind of sounds like Shaggy too. Well, that's because they are the same guy. And then from then on, I've always been practicing impressions and different kinds of voices. And then I started imitating family members and people at work, which, you know, some people find funny, some don't. And then for this, it's been the same thing. So a lot of these voices, I've done a lot of background voices. I have just kind of like in the back of my mind somewhere that I keep in like a file of like stereotypes, kind of. Not offensive types, but like if the guy's more rugged, then I know how to find a character that's more rugged. I take what I know and then kind of alter it a little bit to what the director is looking for. Same thing for softer characters. If this character's a little more closer to like an office guy, then he's going to sound more like me, but he might have a different kind of pattern of speaking that I don't have. Not only is coming up with voices important, but it's all about making sure it's coming from a place of honesty. And what's awesome about voice acting is you don't have to look anything like the character. If I really wanted to, I could play the Hulk. You know, even though I'm not 10 feet tall and a billion pounds, I could still go, Hulk smash, beauty man, you know. That's voice acting. And then after I graduate, like I said, I kind of have a toolbox. And voice acting is one skill I keep in there. If I need to be a voice actor one day, if I'm going in for like a commercial or a radio advertisement, then I already have that. Or if I got to play a character that's buried in makeup, I can still get my voice to be there. But voice acting is also a great improvisational skill to have. And 99% of auditions to me have always been improvised on the spot. Like you get the sides and you might get 5 minutes to look at it and kind of come up with choices. And then most of the choices you make are right on the spot as you're doing the audition. And it doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. It just matters that you made a choice. I hope you like this segment. Keep watching the radio play and try to find which voice is mine if you can. I know they're so good.
Hi, I am Jeremy St. Martin. I am a junior at University of Detroit Mercy, and I am a theater major. Within the Alfred Hitchcock production, I am playing various speaking roles as well as the role of Uncle Charlie. One of the really cool things I got to do was be the music coordinator. And it was really kind of neat. It gave me the chance to play with a ton of different genres. So at one point you're gonna hear like elevator music, like that cheesy third floor, whatever. But then there are some times where it gets, I got the chance to be like a little bit more intricate with it. So for example, in episode 2, for the elevator scene, or rather the boombox scene, you'll hear that there are 2 gentlemen who are in this kind of weird pinter play sort of moment, and one of them is playing piano. And so I thought about going a little bit more abstract and making it almost impressionistic. So you'll hear kind of this. Just representing this sort of mysterious kind of avant-garde moment. And it was really, really neat to be able to just sit at the piano and during this process, just kind of play, you know, and really see what happened. And some of the stuff I came up with, like at one point you'll hear just a kind of a 90s alt-rock version of Que Sera Sera. Coming up with all that stuff is really super cool. So I was really glad to have the opportunity to be a part of this. So I really hope you enjoy the show. I hope you enjoy the music. Thanks a lot.
We hope that you've enjoyed this evening's presentation, and we hope that you enjoy the exhilarating adventure of Hitchcocked and audio serial. Having worked with the playwright Joe Landry over the past year on this project, as well as working very closely with an innumerable number of Detroit Mercy students, faculty, staff, alumni, professional guest artists, I cannot emphasize just how proud I am of the amount of work and talent that has gone into this project. So from the bottom of my heart, I want to say thank you. Thank you to everyone involved in this. Thank you for your patience, for your creativity, for your talent, and for your time. And I especially want to send a thank you to Mr. Thomas Page, our sponsor for this project. He's a Detroit Mercy alum. He has been a longtime supporter of our program. Mr. Page, we cannot thank you enough. We would not be able to do any of this without you. Now a little bit about how this project is going to be launched. So as of tonight, as of right now, episode 1 of this series is officially available on Spotify. Each episode will be released on a Friday evening over the course of the next few weeks, with episode 5 premiering, the final episode, mind you, premiering on April the 16th. And for information, not only about how to access the episode links when they become available, but also for information about the project as a whole and the episodes and lots of other great information, I encourage you to visit our website. That website is udmercy.edu/Hitchcocked. You go there each and every Friday night. We'll have a link waiting for you. Thank you so much for joining us, and please enjoy episode 1, entitled The Trouble with Alma, of Hitchcocked, an audio serial. Thank you.